Hey, and welcome to the shop. Today, I'm working on my 2007 Dodge Ram 3500 Cummins 6.7 with the 6-speed manual transmission. It has a G56, I think it's called. It's a pretty decent transmission, but one of the problems that it has is it makes a lot of noise. It makes it's called gear rollover noise. So a lot of times what people do is they add a little bit of extra fluid to it. If you're found this video, you probably understand why if you were searching. But one of the things that happens once you add a little bit extra fluid to it, that fluid gets thrown up on the boot in the top of the transmission and it starts leaking. So let me show you what the leak looks like, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to fix it. All right, so first things first, I'm going to jump on the creeper here, roll underneath the truck, and show you what the leak looks like. It's coming down both sides of the transmission right now, but when it first started, it was coming down just one side of the transmission. Let's check it out. So we're not going to spend very much time under the truck today, but what we're looking at here, as you can see, a pretty fairly decent stream of coming off the side of this transmission. And if we just kind of tilt over in here, you can see it's coming off of both sides. And it does leave a little tiny little drop when it's parked places, probably maybe more than a day or two. And it really depends on how much you drove it. So most of the time, if you drove it a little bit, it kind of splashes out the top and then it'll drop down. If you look right down here, that's overnight. So I drove it about 10-12 miles yesterday, and that's what it left for me. All right, so here we're in the inside of the cab. We've got to take this cup holder out if you have one. If you're equipped with a shifter, you may have to take that out as well. Mine's on the dash up here. And we're going to take all of this stuff out around the shifter here so that we can get to the boot underneath. So let's go. This kind of just pops out. You'll find all kinds of change and stuff like that in there. Maybe a random gift card to Dunkin' Donuts. Just take that guy out. Just set it over here on the seat. And then there's a couple of screws down in here. Let's see here. This one looks like it's about a 10 mil. And then this one back here is a Phillips head. So we got to pull those guys out. This guy just pops out. We can just slide him up here. And we're trying to get right down in here. So, okay, correction, it's not a 10 mil. Looks like an 8. No, we don't need to. This doesn't have to come off. This guy does have to pop out. I have to pop this little piece out here. Very handy tool for working on the interior, by the way. And that's a 10 or an 8 mil down here. And this piece is connected up in here with just some clips. So that should just pop out like that. There we go. Now, the next thing is we've got to take this piece around the shifter off, and that's another 10 mil here. And then there's another one on the back side. That piece, it does have a little crack in the back of it, so it'll come around the shifter. In my case, I have my CB wire routed through there, so I'm just going to pull that aside here. All right, now, so with that stuff out of the way, we're going to peel back the carpet a little bit, and there's more 8mm bolts holding this plastic piece down. We're going to pull that out. Okay, Now, with that exposed, we have that out. You can see these 2 bolts right here. We'll take those off just so we have some room to work around in here. Plus, when we put the new boot on, that thing's touching me in the face. When we put the new boot on, we're gonna want this all out of the way, and that means we don't have to take all this rubber off the top, and we don't have to mess with the shift handle. And these bolts are 13 millimeter. Just grab a socket. And now at this point, you should be able to tell pretty clearly where your oil leak was coming from. All right, so now we can see with a oh, let's not put the camera in the way of the light there. Fair amount of certainty, hold still, that this guy is our problem. Now, I have been in here before, and you can see I added zip ties to it. And I tried to save that boot. It was before I had messed with it. And obviously, it didn't hold all the oil in. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna replace it with a different type of boot that should hopefully hold that stuff better and prevent this from happening again. I mentioned before, I have been in there before. It was when I discovered the problem initially. So what I did was I ordered a boot. This boot is from a ATV. It's called a Fast Boot Kit, and it's part number 5502008. It's for the CV shafts and in a like a UTV or an ATV of some sort. It comes with some grease we're not going to use. And it comes with a boot that's a little bit more robust than the one we have in there. It has 2 options for size, and it should hold up better to the oil. Now, that's the other thing I should mention. Because of the fact that this transmission has had additional oil put in it, I also changed out the oil to a fully synthetic, which is different than what they recommended from the factory. It's a Mercedes transmission, and Mercedes recommends this oil, which is a little bit different than what Chrysler recommends when they make it, or Mopar or Dodge or whoever built the truck. So that oil is a little bit more caustic to the rubber, not the transmission, but the rubber. And that sort of explains why that rubber deteriorated. So we're going to put this other rubber in there that's much more resilient, hopefully. So from the factory, they had a metal band clamp on here. You'll have to take that off. I have zip ties holding this on, hoping to keep this from leaking again. I'm going to take those off and then pull this boot right off. Hopefully that's how that works. Now, one of the things that I would take the time right now to do, if you haven't overfilled your transmission to try to close out that noise, or if you haven't changed your transmission fluid in a while, now is a great time to drain the fluid and then take these 4 bolts off, pull the shifter out, and refill it from the top. It's so much easier than trying to refill from the bottom. Plus, you can add an extra quart, which is what a lot of people recommend to quiet the transmission down. I've already done that. I did that last time that I did that. That's part of why I have the extra oil coming out the top here. There's a little bit more fluid pressure in there, I would assume, than what it previously would have had from the factory. Don't think it's going to hurt the transmission. 220-some thousand miles, and it seems to be doing okay. But we're going to put this other boot on here, so if you haven't done that, now's the time to do it. So we're going to take our new rubber piece, and if you look real closely, you can see there's two different clamp rings. This is kind of a universal part, so it's two different sizes. We're going to take this larger clamp ring and we're just going to cut that right off because we're going to use the inside one. I may be able to take a little bit more off of there, but I'm going to check it first. We want to take the rest of that lip off because we want this mating surface for this side to be all the way down flush with the bottom of the thing. So we're going to take the rest of this lip right off. Also in this kit are a couple of clamps and instructions. I've never used these things before because it comes with this little applicator thing. But we're gonna give it a shot and I'll let you know how it turns out. I am sure these things have some type of a good application, but I think I've got a better idea for this one. I have a better idea. All right, well, that about wraps that up. Well, the boot part. I'm gonna set you on the tripod here and let you watch the wrap up at a time-lapse type of thing-ish or something, because I'm just gonna slap this back together and go for a drive. Hopefully, if you're having this problem, that helps you solve it. And if you see it coming down the side of the transmission, that's probably what's causing it. I have seen pictures, if you look online, I've seen pictures of these boots getting cracked and just overall just breaking down over time. Mine, I'm pretty sure it was just a seal of some sort. It's kind of like stretched around the shifter, and every time you'd shift a little bit, it would come out. So, well, thanks for stopping out. If you thought this video was helpful, like, subscribe, share, whatever that is. If not, well, hopefully you were entertained a little bit. So, I do random stuff in my shop, fixing old crap, so feel free to stop out anytime. We'll see you on the next one.